we're talking about the death of the lemonade stand. Might sound petty, but guess what? It really isn't. We are really talking about the depths of the death of American entrepreneurialism. But one man who says he will never stop selling lemonade from his front lawn is Fingers Malloy. He is host of The Snark Factor with Fingers Malloy on FTR Radio. Fingers, the lemonade stand regulators are getting pretty strict out there, aren't they?
Isn't it really sad, Gina? I'm much older than you, but there was a time in my youth, many moons ago, when I would, along with my friends, set up a card table in the front yard and have a lemonade stand. And you know how it is. Usually kids will get bored after a couple of hours and move on to something else. They're lucky to make $2 in the effort. What really makes me disgusted about this is, in society today, too often these stands are raided by police because they've received a complaint. I don't know what kind of human being can look at a couple of 7-year-olds selling lemonade and think, this needs to be stopped. I need to call the police.
And what do you think is really going on here? Because they can't think this is good publicity. I mean, you go attacking 9-year-olds for their entrepreneurial ventures, and you're sending a pretty bad message out there. So what do you think lies beneath the surface of this sudden attack on lemonade stands? And it's rampant, by the way. It's happened all over the country. And cities across the country are not only threatening some of these children, but actually fining them. I mean, this has gotten serious.
I hate to be a cynic and, be a Danny Downer, but don't you get a sense that a lot of this stems from people who are leading miserable lives and they just can't stand seeing other people be happy? So when they see happiness and joy spread, they have to do something to kill it. I mean, when we were kids and we had a lemonade stand, if a police officer saw us, he may get out of his car to buy a glass of lemonade. He wouldn't be asking me for my business permit.
Yeah, I think it's buzzkill. I think you're right about that, Fingers. But I hate to say this, but and I'm going to sound like the conspiracy theorist here, but I have to go a little deeper. And I have to say that if you wrote this in a novel by, let's just say George Orwell or someone, and you said, first they regulated the lemonade stands, right? I mean, isn't that kind of a good way to start a story that tells of a very cynical tale of government sending a message down to 9-year-olds that you're being watched and you have to ask us first for permission?
First, they went to the lemonade stands, and I said nothing. And then they went to the little girls who want to sell cupcakes from their homes. A friend of mine, Tammy Nance, brought this up the other day, and I'm sure maybe you saw the story of the 11-year-old girl selling cupcakes out of her home in Illinois.
Right.
President Obama's State of the Union speech, he repeatedly told the American people that any individual who works hard can achieve their dreams. And then the very next day, local government officials in Madison County, Illinois, shut this little girl's cupcake business down after seeing it in the local newspaper. Mm-hmm. And their excuse, of course, is laws are laws, rules are rules. But you and I both know that that's bogus. Laws are circumvented all the time by people who are part of a strong lobbying group. But unfortunately for little Chloe Sterling, there's no lobbying group for an 11-year-old baker other than the American people. And I think it's critical for folks like us to continue to highlight stories like Chloe's to wake people up, whether it's federal, state, or local government officials. Too many politicians and bureaucrats are drunk with power, and the big loser in all this is common sense.
Yeah, common sense and truly free markets, Fingers, don't you think? Because, I mean, the message to the people is that, it's you can go into business for yourself, but, I mean, if you're going to do that, you're going to encounter a lot of red tape, government regulation. You could be fined for things you didn't even realize were unlawful or against some local municipal regulation or whatever. And so why don't you just go to work for Big Daddy Government? He'll take care of all your woes. And in fact, if you go to work for the IRS and you target the government's enemies, then guess what? You'll get a performance bonus at the end of the year. I mean, isn't that really the psychological message that they're sending to our children today?
We're becoming a nation where the whiners in our society are determining how we live, what we eat, and how we raise our children. Having a cupcake business or a lemonade stand can give kids a taste of running their own business. And wouldn't you know it, government wants to make it as tough on the elementary school entrepreneur as it does any regular small business owner, and it's truly sad.
It is. It's heartbreaking. I don't believe our republic can survive without the continued thriving of entrepreneurialism in this country. Fingers, what happens if entrepreneurialism continues to decline and continues to be bogged down in regulation and taxed to death, and the public sector continues to be glorified and nurtured and cultivated and grown? Paint that picture for us.
Well, I think you're seeing it now, and what's happened over the past several years. It's kind of a malaise that's setting in over the country where people are depressed if you lose your job and you can't go out and find a new one because the private sector is being strangled by taxation and overregulation. People are becoming desperate. And to a larger point, government is increasingly wanting to micromanage our lives, not just when it comes to business. If you ever really want to get upset and fired up, do a Google search for California set to ban and just see all the ridiculous things that just California alone has considered banning. Anything from black cars to big screen TVs, biking while texting.
We actually, municipalities this week in California started banning the e-cigarettes, many of which have absolutely no nicotine and no tobacco in. So you're literally smoking, not even smoking, you're literally sucking in air and blowing air back out, and that's now going to be regulated by the state of California. And you know what? By and large, I have to tell you, the media that you would think would be all over this is completely oblivious. They take for granted that that somehow e-cigs, which produce no secondhand smoke, are somehow offensive to somebody, and that somebody should be able to say that I can't have my e-cig if I want to in a public place. It's absurd. They also have banned fireplaces in many municipalities, as I'm sure you know. And not only that, they've set your neighbors against you to be the snitches. So in West Hollywood, for example, if your neighbor it has a fire in their fireplace and you tell on them, you literally get rewarded financially for that. So that's how overboard it's gone. And for those who think they're safe because they're not in Crazyfornia, whatever happens in Crazyfornia doesn't stay in Crazyfornia, does it?
No, it does. I can give you two examples right off the top of my head of ridiculous laws that were proposed. One in Florida, a state legislator introduced a bill to require restaurants to provide toilet paper in their bathrooms in all of the restaurants. Now, of course, that should be common sense, but do we really need a law for that? Are you going to have some sort of toilet paper police crawling all over Florida to make sure that all the stalls in restaurants in Florida have the proper amount of toilet paper? And one of my favorites is in New York City a few years back. Unfortunately, a couple of people were injured walking into traffic, not paying attention. So a local government official proposed banning iPods and MP3 players at crosswalks.
Oh, wow.
Because people are distracted when they're walking in traffic and they could get hurt.
Oh,
this is
my
the kind
gosh.
of micromanaging that is getting out of control, and the American people need to wake up, stand up, and start fighting back.
What is the proper role of government in all of this, Fingers? Because none of us want to get salmonella on our lettuce, so we may want our lettuce inspected, although I kind of even question how necessary that is with the world of the internet today, when you can check out the local farmer and see if his lettuce is good. But there is some role of government here. Can you kind of spell that out for us?
Well, I think that the role of government should be a referee in disputes, whether it's, there needs to be some inspection, obviously, for food. We need to keep it safe, obviously, for national defense. When you start getting into things like banning light bulbs and telling people that they can't smoke cigarettes on their own private property, that's when government power is running amok.
Yeah.
And it's happened incrementally where people don't notice it that doesn't happen overnight. This has happened over decades. And we need to keep pointing this out because this is becoming very dangerous.
Yeah, don't lay down for those serpent light bulbs. My husband brought home some of those. I took those down to his office. I said, you take these back. I don't want anything to do with them. I will order my light bulbs online because I am not going to comply with this. It's the most ridiculous thing ever that they think they can regulate our light bulbs, for crying out, especially when global warming has been completely debunked. You got me fired up here. Fingers, I appreciate, though, you being on the show. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on FTR Radio weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern. The name of my show is The Snark Factor, and you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @FingersMalloy.
at Fingers Malloy on FTR Radio. Be sure and check him out. He does a great show. Very funny. The Snark Factor is the perfect name for this show, and he's got a great team there at the Snark Factor. And it's a real honor to have you on our show, Fingers. Welcome to Smart Life. I'm so glad you were with us today. We want to have you back soon.
It's an honor. Thank you so much, Gina. Take care.
Up next, we're going to talk to someone who's taking on the government regulators. And remember, coming up later in the show, we, of course, are going to go to your calls and emails. My favorite part of the show, the number 888-650-8176. Or you can go to the Smart Life page at moneybizlife.com. Click on the Ask Dr. Gina button and send us an email. Or you can contact me on Facebook and Twitter as well. Producer Jason sits in the dark depths of his cage, and we let him out only when you send an email. So send him something. He's lonely back there. It's kind of pathetic. Stay with us. More Smart Life coming up right after this.